Hey, this is Matt once again. What about you in the video? There's another paid request, this time for Tony. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, topics, reactions, reviews, commentaries, re-reviews, randomness, whatever it may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for the documentary The Psycho Legacy from 2010. Of course, as I try to talk and it gets darker all of a sudden. Now, this was a documentary made by Rob Galuzzo. Took about 3 years for him to make, give or take, and he's a big Psycho fan. Now, with me, I've grown to appreciate the first Psycho. When I first saw it, nowadays, I don't mind Psycho. I really like Anthony Perkins. Generally does a good job. I do think the film falls a bit when Janet Leigh dies because the other supporting characters are just not that interesting to me. Although I do like Anthony Perkins' performance, but like the people looking for Janet Leigh's character, they don't do much for me. But I can appreciate it. Psycho 2 is my favorite of the group. I enjoy Richard Franklin's direction, who did Road Games, among other films. Anthony Perkins is the star front and center, and I really enjoy his performance as a guy who's really just trying to go on the straight and narrow path, and these outside forces are sadly force them back into insanity. Pretty tragic movie and interesting story where, wow, he wasn't doing this and that. It was this other person, and you really feel bad. It actually makes you feel bad for Norman Bates, which I thought was the most surprising thing in Psycho 2. It has a great scene with a shovel. Psycho 3, mixed on. I'm mixed on it. Like, the music is kind of interesting and some cool shots. But I just felt like a story that didn't really advance much. It just, okay, here's this girl that reminds him of Janet Leigh. And then he thinks he's going to fall in love, but then doesn't work out. And it's not awful. It's not terrible. It's not, the worst of the sequels. It's there. Psycho for the Beginning is interesting. Henry Thomas from E.T. plays a young Norman Bates. And then you have the older Norman Bates where he's afraid that he's going to have a kid and he's going to be the same as him. And in a way, since that was the last Psycho film, it kind of ends positively where Norman Bates, you're to assume, overcame his insanity and actually lived the rest of a decent life. And again, because there was no more Psycho films, and it ended with that, and one of those few, Norman Bates was able to end it on a positive note. Which is kind of the most surprising thing. And that was one directed by McGarris, with Olivia Hussey playing the Mama Bates. Like, the only one I truly hate is the remake. And the Bates Motel TV movie was pretty bad as well. But the four movies, I don't really hate any of them. It's just not a franchise I rewatch a lot. Although I do like Anthony Perkins' performance, I don't rewatch that as much as Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th or so forth. Now, the documentary itself, it's about 87 minutes long, give or take. So it does feel short. In the documentary, they don't talk about the Bates Motel TV show. They don't talk about the Psycho remake. There is bonus features, and there's like 3-4 minutes the remake is talked about, and a little section where this is talked about. But they feel like those could be talked about much in a lengthy state. and they weren't really that satisfying. And this is kind of a documentary that is fine to watch. At the time, it worked efficiently because at the time, like the other Psycho movies were not given much for releases. Nowadays, Psycho 2 has a special edition from Stream Factory. Same with Psycho 3. I don't think Psycho 4 has it, but the first Psycho, if you have the Blu-ray of first Psycho, there's a full-length documentary just on that movie. So if you want to know about the first movie, you probably already have the Psycho Blu-ray. You just watch that. This, it begins the typical points of part 1. There's really not any new info you don't have to find out about part 1. And one of the things about it is that a lot of the important people are not around to talk. And I think that kind of hurts this in the long run as well. Because there's no Alfred Hitchcock, there's no Anthony Perkins, there's no Janet Leigh, there's no Richard Franklin who did Psycho 2, there's no Meg Tilly, which her story and the fight between her and Anthony Perkins seemed like it would be the big story of Psycho 2, and you don't really get that. And then on top of that, you don't have Bates Motel, you don't have Psycho remake in the documentary, you don't have, I talked about the Psycho attraction at Universal Studios. What was the idea, how that came about? I mean, you could tell this is a fan getting this done, and I applaud Rob G. In short, I commend him for that. I commend him for very small crew, him and some friends, doing what they can with what they had to get this done, and still create a decent enough watch. It's just that if you compare it to Never Sleep Again or Crystal Lake Memories, it's not as slick looking, it's not as quality of production, it's not as in depth, and so I think if you don't know anything about these movies, it's definitely worth a watch. I mean, Psycho 2, you got the writer Tom Holland, who would go on to direct Child's Play and Fright Night. He's most of the part in Psycho 2. You also talked to Robert Loggia, who's in it. May he rest in peace. Then they also talked to the editor and one or two other people. But again, a lot of it is talking about Anthony Perkins and how he was, and I would say Tom Holland came up with the more interesting info on that. And I won't give it away for people who want to watch the documentary. If I gave away every interesting point in it, then there'd be no reason to watch it. So it'd be more fun for you to find out for yourself. But it just didn't feel as in depth as other documentaries have been. Trying to think. There's other people interviewed that had nothing to do with it. Like you had Tony Timpone, who ran Fangoria magazine. Remember that used to be a thing, Fangoria magazine? Then you had, I don't even know if they are a thing anymore. I remember at one point a lot of their damn warehouse got in a fire, and maybe they are still a thing, but it's nothing I never hear about Fangoria nowadays. That's what I'm saying. They might still be around, cool, but I just never hear about them. Ryan Ron, who's with the website, Adam Green, who did the Hatchet films, Joe Lynch, who did Wrong Turn 2, and I actually did like a film he did called Mayhem, God, what was his name? From The Walking Dead. The Asian guy from The Walking Dead, he stars in it. Mayhem is a pretty good one. I also liked Everly with Salma Hayek. Joe Lynch seems like a fun guy. He did the commentary with the director and such on the Blob remake, among others. Oh, Stuart Gordon is in there for a little bit, talking about how much he's a fan of the first Psycho. So they don't have been Psycho 2. But again, when you don't have Anthony Perkins, you don't have Med Tilly, and you don't have Richard Franklin, because two of the three passed away. Med Tilly won nothing. She probably won nothing to do with this, because from what I understand, her and Anthony Perkins hated her for some reason. I still don't fully get why Anthony Perkins hated her. Still don't get it. And Med Tilly talked about how she had trouble working with Anthony Perkins and with the director. I mean, more details on that would be nice. Like full on details. Psycho 3 seemed to get the most love out of this, and that's probably because it got the most people. You have the writer, you have Jeff Fahey, who's a co-star, you have Diana Scarwood. Like, you have quite a few people involved in Psycho 3 talking about it. And that was the one that Anthony Perkins directed, and some people liked working with him, some people thought he was too intense. The bits with Anthony Perkins, you do get some footage, which on the special feature you see the full version. One of the only later Q&As he did before he passed away, it was at Fangoria. It's like maybe 40 minutes long, and it's rough video quality where they're shooting and Anthony Perkins has a microphone, he's answering questions. You see that from time to time. As well, with the first movie, you see a little bit of an older archive Janet Leigh interview. And in the fourth film, Henry Thomas is interviewed, which is pretty cool. Mick Garris is interviewed, aka the star of the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, Olivia Hussey, and they seem to like working with Anthony Perkins. Now, granted, Anthony Perkins and Henry Thomas obviously didn't share the same stream because older and younger version, but he would come by from time to time. And with a title called Legacy, again, you would think, like, some of the stuff in the deleted footage, like in the bonus features, like there's a guy showing a lot of memorabilia. I thought that was very cool. It seemed like that would be something that could be incorporated into this. Or again, how about the Psycho attraction in Universal Studios? How that all came about, and where did that start, and who someone there could be interviewed on how do they maintain it. Even for people who don't even know what it is, like what does it all entail? I don't know, just any info about that, or again the TV show, the TV movie I should say, that was going to be a TV show, and the remake. Or even a bit of more of the Psycho novel before it became a movie. It just feels, it's very short. Again, hour and 20 some minutes long. Some of the bonus features, like I said, the one with the guy showing all the memorabilia he has. Like he's got one of the dummies, the fake mothers, the zombified state. I forget which movie it was from. The guy has one of them. Also, one I liked was David Chow. He's comparing the Psycho 2 movie to the Psycho 2 book. And the Psycho 2 novel is a very weird story dealing with Hollywood. And I think they were like making a film on Psycho, and the way David Chow is describing the story is very interesting. I thought that was one of the better features. And I'm like, why isn't that in the full documentary? I didn't. It's one of those things in retrospect. It's kind of unfair. I know. But just from. You see Crystal Lake Memories and Never Sleep Again, other stuff that's much more in depth. This feels a bit tame in comparison. But yeah, it was uphill bout because a lot of the bigger players have passed away or didn't want to be involved. And so you also have, and I have no room to talk, but the audio and video is not top notch either. Either like Mick Garris has a dog playing, and sometimes the audio isn't the best. So at least it's not a finite, slick production. It's interesting, worth a look for anyone who hasn't. Like, if you're interested in the Psycho films and don't have Psycho 2 Blu-ray and the Psycho 3 Special Edition Blu-ray, or for some reason the Psycho 1 Blu-ray, and you want a nice, short, to the point overlook of this franchise, it's definitely worth a look. It's well edited. It goes at a crisp pace. It's not boring. And as a guy who's a fan that it took them these years to put together, I can appreciate the effort, the hustle, and Dirty D's done dirt cheap. And again, at a time in 2010 when this, doing documentaries like that wasn't a typical thing. It just, I appreciate what Rob G did. Kind of like I can appreciate Halloween 25 Years of Terror, although if you have the Halloween box set, there are films that alone they have like an hour-long documentary on them. Like Halloween H2O, I think is like 50 minutes long. But I appreciate Halloween 25 Years of Terror. The one that truly sucks is His Name Was Jason. Because you have technically 12 movies, including Friday vs. Jason, 12 movies in a span of like 90 minutes. Come on now. Here, because it's 4 films, 90 minutes, at least there's a little bit more breathing room. Like I say, Cycle 3 and Cycle 4, I think, get a bit more of the talk on it. And if you're big fans of those 2 films, it's definitely worth a look for that. Because I think some of these people interviewed here are not even interviewed on the Cycle 3 Blu-ray. And Cycle 4, I don't even know. I think it has a Blu-ray, but I don't know if it has features. I don't know. Maybe it does, I don't know. Like I said, I think there's a lot of stuff that could have been put in there. I think it could have been longer. I think maybe try a bit harder for Med Tilly going, listen, I know you had a bad time, but you be honest about it or learn more about what those details were. Like, you did snippets, but I felt like something that did more into. And like the first one, what more can be said about the first film? I think if you watch this, you're going to want to learn more about the sequels. And on a side note, the special feature on the remake is like 4 minutes long, and filmers felt kind of useless. Just Adam Green, like, not wanting to rock the boat, saying, I'm sure if he was here, he'd be like, I just wanted to try something because I'm a big fan of the first movie. No one wanted to flat out say, this fucking sucked, and it was fucking pointless. If it had at least one person saying, I don't know what the fuck the point of that was. That was so stupid. It was so pointless. I think there's a lot more that could have gone into that. At least have one person be fucking flat out emotionally honest about it, but they weren't praising it. It just, and there's really not much detail you got out of it. Someone describing about he's doing it like someone would do a play. I'm like, yeah, well, there's a big fucking difference between a play and a movie, especially do shot for shot. The one guy, I forget his name, maybe it was the director, but he says, no, I think he was someone working on the project. I can't remember his name. I apologize. He was talking about how, yeah, because he was on set and he said the director had a stopwatch for how long this scene took, and if they took longer, okay, do it again. And like Robert Forster is in that at the end of the remake, and he had to do the take like 50 times because he was going too long, and you have to speed it up. And he said that was a detriment because actors, some of them good actors, because he had like Vito Mortensen and like Robert Forster and such, they weren't able to be free with it because they were on this strict regimen of timing and you have to do this and this. So I just say like Vince Vaughn sucks as Norman Bates, but at the same time you're on the strict regimen of you gotta do this and do this, and you have to do. Who knows if that's how you can really truly act as Norman Bates when you can't be free to explore and to try different things and make it your own. The second remake is just one of the most pointless fucking movies ever made. By that, I think there's a lot of, if people were honest, there's a lot of info you get out of that movie. But like I said, if you're into the Psycho films, you've never seen any of them, and you find this to watch, it's worth a watch, and it doesn't take too much of your time. I'm just saying you might not get your mind blown, but I mean it's still decent for any, still worth any Psycho fans collection, the Psycho Legacy. So, with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye bye.